Opening day is just around the corner. That means baseball time in Norman, Oklahoma, as the Sooners begin their first season in the SEC on the diamond, helping us break it all down, talking all things OU baseball. Friend of the show, one of the best in the business when it comes to talking Boomer Sooner, Travis Davidson. He's a radio host on the Ref Sports in Norman, also a contributor with OU Insider and doing all kinds of stuff. I can barely keep up with this guy these days. Trav, what's going on, man? Appreciate you taking the time and excited to talk all things Oklahoma baseball entering an exciting 2025 season.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate you having me on, as always. I always love talking OU baseball because, let's face it, among the major men's sports at Oklahoma, it's been far and away the best for a few years now. So, obviously, in 2022, Skip Johnson and crew took a squad all the way to the National Championship Series, falling to Ole Miss, obviously. We've been in the postseason since, obviously hosted a regional last year. So, when you look at kind of the major men's sports, in Norman right now, it's easy to get excited about baseball season, especially when you know that, the fan base is preparing to enter the most exciting baseball conference, right? Like football, absolutely big crowds, everything like that. But that's nothing new really for like OU football, whatnot. Baseball, I'm not sure OU baseball fans are fully prepared for what the SEC is about to look like, and I couldn't be more excited. I think season ticket sales have over doubled from last year, and we were setting attendance records last year as well. So doubling that is pretty wild. They've made some stadium upgrades, before some large stadium upgrades. So really excited about the season. I'll be there all the time. I'll be driving over from Tulsa.
Yeah, Travis, I know you guys are excited. I'm excited for Oklahoma fans. I love SEC baseball. There's nothing like it, truly, and it's going to be an electric year. I want to start there because you mentioned, obviously, the expectations sky high for a group that's no stranger to success. Obviously, last year hosted in the regional round. Didn't go the way you want in the postseason, but had a really good year. A few years ago, like you mentioned, in the College World Series final against another SEC foe in Ole Miss. Talk about year one expectations. I know this is an Oklahoma. I feel like it's an Oklahoma team flying under the radar a little bit. It's been a mixed bag in regards to preseason polls, where you're seeing them. Travis, we hear the old adage, this team that finishes middle of the pack or lower third, the SEC would win another conference. It almost kind of feels like that's the role that Oklahoma is playing for somewhere. Had a lot of success in the Big 12. Now they come to the SEC. Most people are putting them around the middle of the pack or so. Just walk me through again with Skip Johnson leading this club. What are the year one expectations in the SEC? What are you expecting to see? And again, the overall expectations for this program in 2025.
Yeah, I mean, it's really not unlike, you described the SEC baseball. It sounds like you're describing SEC basketball as well, right? I mean, OU goes and beats the number 2 team in the ACC and the number 2 team in the Big 12. And it's like everything's on fire around here because the SEC is so deep, right? Baseball, no different. Oklahoma last year obviously loses, a lot of familiar faces, guys that were in Omaha, right? Your Jackson Nicklaus's, John Spikermans of the world. Right? Like you lose about 60%, 65% of your offensive production, and probably a little over 50% of your mound production. But it's going to start with the Witherspoon twins on the mound for sure. Expectations around the program are that you've got another first-round arm in Kyson. Malachi, obviously playing with some Team USA. He projects, and on opening weekend, he should be Saturday's starter. And then Cam Johnson, right? The LSU transfer. Big, good-looking athlete, getting him over just as a testament to what Skip Johnson's been able to do. I mean, when you look at the pitchers he's put, into the majors, it's not hard for him to attract some extremely talented arms. So, really excited about the pitching rotation. Should see Jacob Golston kind of take over the Tuesday starts, kind of some of those midweek starts. Obviously, a guy that they got out of the Major League Baseball draft to convince him to come play college ball. So that was a win for Oklahoma that should pay dividends this year. When it comes to the offense, you got to circle Easton Carmichael, right? I mean, that's a guy that's been as consistent gets. Had a great offseason. He should have a banner year for the Sooners, as well as Jackson Willits, right? His dad, Reggie, is the offensive coordinator per se, right, of the Sooners, and they're going to employ that chaos style, right? Skip Johnson is very familiar that you're still dealing with amateurs. This is not professional baseball. You want to put the pressure on amateurs, make them make a play. A lot of people that might be watching Oklahoma for the first time might say, man, they're really aggressive on the base paths, or man, I can't believe they sent him there. They are going to put pressure on amateurs, and that's that's going to be their mantra. So they're going to have speed. Jason Walk is back, the speedster. He's going to have to replace some speed in John Spikerman. Obviously, really a heart and soul type guy with last year's team and the team before, things like that. So, yeah, you're going to have to replace a lot, but I think Oklahoma feels really good about some freshmen. Kyle Branch, you're going to see him at second base. They're really, really excited about him. They're looking forward to kind of being that, underdog, type team, and really the coaches, that underdog type staff going into the SEC.
Travis, you mentioned a lot of names there. I want to jump to the pitching staff specifically. You mentioned the Witherspoon twins. Really excited to watch those guys throw, especially Kyson, who, last year the numbers he put up, 8-3 record, 3.71 ERA. You mentioned the fastball and, what he projects as being potentially a first-round arm. Cam Johnson, again, another guy, the LSU transfer, going to be in that weekend rotation. I know Cade Crossland as well, the JUCO transfer, probably going to be a midweek guy, or at least projects as that right now. And then Jacob Golston at the back end of the bullpen. For folks that, again, have not seen Oklahoma and your overall expectations of this pitching staff, sounds like it's going to be a lot of high velocity, but it sounds like the upside with this group is actually pretty good, and maybe the offense is more so the question. Because you mentioned Skip Johnson, his pedigree, his history, if you will, his resume. It indicates that it's going to be another strong pitching staff in Norman.
Yeah, for sure. It's with Skip Johnson, I'll never question the pitching, right? He's got that benefit of the doubt. I don't question linebacker play under Brent Venables. I don't question pitching under Skip Johnson. It's just something. I don't question Lincoln Riley quarterbacks. You don't question Brian Hartline wide receivers. You don't there are certain people you just don't question what their rooms are going to look like. Skip Johnson has earned that benefit of the doubt over and over when it comes to pitching. You bring up Cade Crossland as potentially a midweek guy. There are people who think he might take over a weekend starting spot. He was described to me as Jake Bennett 2.0. Really, really excited. Coming off a back injury, in the fall, which is why probably you won't see him, really compete for a weekend role right away. But don't get it twisted. There are some massive Cade Crossland fans around here. He could definitely get into the weekend rotation. Again, as I mentioned, Jacob Golston. But it's really, they create offense with their chaos style. I think Jackson Willis is going to hit with a little more power than he did a year ago, and he had a 10-home run year a year ago. I think you'll get that power out of him. I just think these guys are going to be playing a lot of low-score games, and I think they're going to play a lot of small ball and get runs across that way. And are you going to see lineups that have a bunch of home run hitters 1 through 9? Probably not, but I don't think that's going to slow down our offense quite as much. But yeah, the mound, the Witherspoon twins for sure are the headliners. It's easy to market as well, right? Being twins and everything like that. The NIL collective, One Oklahoma NIL, has already started to lean into that a little bit. But with the Cam and with the Crossland, with Golston, with those kind of guys, not to mention Dylan Crooks. Coming in and kind of probably solidifying that closer role. I know that, Trevin Michael made a name for himself there. And then last year, we'd kind of jump between kind of a couple looks with that. Dylan Crooks, Jimmy Crooks, just for those of you that remember his older brother, Jimmy. He's Dylan has really shown up here with the recent practices. So really excited, top to bottom when it comes to the arms on this team.
And then, Travis, you mentioned offensively what the identity of this group is going to be. Jackson Willits, obviously the guy that jumps off the page with 10 homers a season ago. Carmichael was 7. And you mentioned his consistency. He hit 366 last year. You mentioned an aggressiveness on the base passes. Is that what you're expecting, more of a small ball kind of approach from this group, less power, if you will? We've obviously seen that work. I mean, Kentucky, I think, was a a prime example of that last year, that they used small ball. They were chaotic on the base pass. Excuse me. They did things that you don't normally see, and it worked to their advantage. I know there's a lot of new pieces in this lineup. What are you expecting 1 through 9? And is that an accurate depiction of what the identity is going to be of this Oklahoma baseball offense, if you will?
Yeah, absolutely. And they're not going to make a guy run laps if he accidentally hits a home run by any stretch of the imagination. You still want power, you still need power, and you're going to get power in this lineup for sure. But when you have an identity of force these amateurs to make plays, because that's what they are, and baseball's really hard. So, force them to make plays. I think that's just a mantra. They use the term chaos all the time. They put the U after the O, of course, and it makes for some of the, best looking merch out there. So, that's really their mantra, and that's what they want to stick with. That is their identity. Obviously, power will be part of that. But when you've got, like I said, a bunch of speed, again, you think of a guy like Spikerman a year ago. I mean, that guy was shockingly fast, sneaky fast, some might call him, but great athlete, one of the better athletes to come through OU baseball in a long time. You think of guys like Kyler and like Kendall Pettis and those type of guys. But don't get it twisted. They've still got a ton of athleticism all over this roster, a ton of young athleticism that they're going to get out. And what I like about it is, they're going, when you push a team like that to be aggressive on the base pass, it's fun. It's like putting gadget plays in other sports. Players like running that kind of stuff. They like running trick plays. They like being aggressive. They like doing those kind of things, right? So it's a fun style to coach because you can tell them to be ultra aggressive. And kids, athletes, competitors, they really like that, and they can get rewarded for it. If you see a guy get thrown out at home or try and stretch a triple or something like that, and he gets out, a lot of fans are naturally going to be like, man, what's going on here? Man, I bet coach is going to be really mad about it. No, that's a fun style to coach, and that's a fun style to motivate, so they really empower these kids to take chances. And I think that's an exciting identity to be a part of.
Now, Travis, this program and this team as well as anybody. Give us one pitcher and one hitter that you feel like right now folks maybe outside of Norman aren't familiar with that you think could become a household name by season's end.
Oh, boy. I think household name, I still don't think Willits ever got there. So I think Jackson Willits is going to have a year that has him in some national conversations. Not the pedigree is insane, obviously, his dad, but his younger brother, there's talks of him, being a top 5 draft pick. We hope that, he stops in Norman first. But I think the Willits name is going to really become national. And then Michael Catalano is a name to watch, freshman that has a chance to make a big impact on the mound for Oklahoma, especially when you start getting into those series late in the year. You need some depth, maybe in a conference championship when you've got to throw some arms, or in a regional where you've got to throw some arms. You're playing a lot of games and you can't just make it as easy as, just throw Kyson out there every day. I think Michael Catalano is going to be a name that even a lot of OU fans don't know, that really is going to make a big impact. And of course, I mentioned Cade Crossland earlier. I think a lot of people are going to get caught up in Witherspoon, Cam, but I think Cade Crossland's going to have something to say about that before the season's over.
Travis, it sort of feels like deja vu asking you this question, because we've had many conversations over the last, 6 months or so about, Oklahoma beginning a new era in the SEC and whatever the sport might be, realistic expectations. But I'm going to ask you again, my friend. I mean, when you look at this team, again, it's a program that's used to having success. We're not talking about, some program that has, lived middle of the pack or lower third and is trying to break through. So, Oklahoma's hosted. They've been to the College World Series. They've been in the National Championship Series. When you look at year one of the SEC, yes, it's very competitive. But again, I know the expectations are high. So for you, for this fan base, this program, what are the expectations year one in the SEC that you think would satisfy those that support Oklahoma baseball?
I think Oklahoma baseball is the best setup among the 3 major men's sports, if you will, to compete in the SEC, right? I mean, you bring up the 2022 College World Series. I mean, we were on the side of the bracket with now SEC Texas and Texas A&M and then Notre Dame, and made it out of that side of the bracket. Obviously fell to Ole Miss in the championship series. But I mean, this is a program that expects to compete for a trip to Omaha every single year, right? It's they're not new to the competition. They're not new to, playing Texas. They're not new to playing A&M. They're not new to playing, Missouri. These are guys that have been here for a while. Obviously, Skip Johnson has Texas in his background, so he's familiar kind of with that scene. And yeah, I think the expectations are to, first of all, make the postseason, and then to host another regional. I think Skip continues, and Todd Butler and Reggie Willits and Ryan Gaines and all those guys, I think they continue to just heighten the expectations around the program. And I think fans are finally kind of realizing, oh man, like we've really got something special here in Norman, especially after that Omaha run that you've seen. Just ticket sales alone just boom since then. It is tough sharing, admittedly sharing the season with the most dynastic softball program in history in the middle of a four-peat, now, trying for a five-peat, that draws a lot of butts to those seats. But there's something special brewing under Skip Johnson at Oklahoma. And again, the expectation is to compete for a national championship.
Travis, I have to ask, because again, we spend so much time talking about the rivalry and the other sports. I'm curious from the baseball perspective, what is the Red River rivalry baseball edition like? What can we expect for maybe some of us who have never really made it priority TV watching when Oklahoma and Texas do battle on the diamond? I know in softball it's very heated as well. They've met obviously in postseasons, national title series. What can we expect in mid-May or so when Texas and Oklahoma do battle on the diamond?
I mean, it could be underwater basket weaving if it's OU Texas. It doesn't matter. It's going to be great competition. It's going to be fierce. It's going to be full of attitude. Obviously, this offseason there was talk, hey, anytime Texas has an opening, OU fans tend to pucker up a little bit because they know, Skip Johnson with his Texas background. It's like, man, I know they're going to want to go after him. And I had Texas fans, in my DMs going, hey man, watch out. We want Skip. And then you get the A&M opening, and it's like, you're in good shape whenever you have a coach that other people want. So when he was able to stick around in Norman, was very excited for that. But that adds to it, right? I mean, Skip's got a little Texas background, but he's an OU guy through and through. But yeah, it's always going to be great rivalry. Obviously, Trev and Michael having the gif of him throwing the horns down after the Big 12 championship, win a couple years ago. Like, fantastic stuff. Obviously fared very well against them a year ago. I don't know, in any sport, that's great. Whether, like I said, it's basketball, whether it's been football. Obviously, we were talking off air earlier about your need to get down to the Cotton Bowl and kind of a bucket list situation for you, getting down there. It's great in every sport. And, people want to talk about, oh, you lost Bedlam, and then, is that you lost that rivalry, or, Texas A&M, obviously a big time rivalry, but I don't know. There's no other rival for OU than Texas. It's not Missouri, it's not OSU, it's not anybody like that. It is Texas.
Final SEC series, too. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, May 15th through 17th. Going to be a lot of fun.
Yes.
Before the SEC tournament gets going that following week. Travis Davidson, again, one of the best business. Travis, last thing before I get you out of here. We've talked about expectations, whatnot. Obviously, get into Omaha. That is the goal. If that's going to happen for this Oklahoma ball club, in your mind, what has to click for this group this season?
Honestly, it sounds crazy, but taking care of business in the midweek, making sure that, much like basketball, you have to take care of the non-con in order to, because when you go into the buzzsaw that is the SEC conference, you have to make your layups, right? You have to win your midweeks. So beating some good teams, Dallas Baptist and Oral Roberts and teams like that, like, you need to win those. So taking care of business there and staying healthy, again, don't want to bring up football season too much, but that was the conversation most of football season. Man, if we had any of our top 5 wide receivers or some continuity on the offensive line, it's no different from baseball. You need to stay healthy. You need those arms. You need Cam and Cade and, both of the Witherspoon twins. You need Jacob Golston. You need, Michael Catalano. You need all those guys to stay healthy, because that pitching depth is going to be what you need to deal with these crazy SEC lineups. So I would say pitching depth and staying healthy.
Again, my friend Travis Davidson, one of the best in the business. He hosts on the Ref Sports, contributes over at OU Insider, doing a bunch of other stuff as well. Travis, let folks know where they can find your work and what else you're up to that I may not have highlighted here lately.
At Travis Skol, at Travis SKOL on Instagram and Twitter, on KREF Sports, obviously OU Insider, like you mentioned. And then really the day job is Team Sports Consulting Group. So we use relational science to consult with teams all over the country, really. You see a lot of the hats behind us of a lot of our partners. And then we're heading out to the NFL Combine to work with them. We just got done with the Shrine Bowl doing all the relational consulting. So if you're a coach or administrator watching this, go ahead and find me, shoot me a DM. We'd love to talk more about doing some consulting work for you. And I appreciate you for having me on. Always a pleasure to come chat with you.
Yeah, Travis, congratulations to you guys on all your success, and always a pleasure, man. We'll definitely do it again soon.
Absolutely. Boomer.